and for sharing that. That sense of time and knowledge of time is so important because oftentimes we skip right to, okay, let's take a bunch of tasks and then let's put them in order. But in order for our students to do that successfully, we need to help them recognize that we all have perceptions of sense of time and how we perceive tasks. And so starting there is really important because then they have a better understanding on how to prioritize. So this lesson helps students categorize activities they do so that they can complete the activities that are most important and the ones that may have not so good consequences if they don't do them, and save time for activities that they want to do. So I love this slide. There's a couple of fun things here. I show it to students all the time. Right. So they missed the boat because that was today. So they weren't prioritizing their tasks. So they're getting left behind. And then this one's funny too. I'll do it tomorrow, right? Or you could even replace this with later or soon. A mystical land where 99% of all human productivity and motivation and achievement is stored. It's kind of putting things off, right? That procrastination. Because again, it's that maybe our students aren't necessarily lazy or don't want to do it, but they don't know how to organize and prioritize. So their funnels are clogged and they just would rather put off that feeling. So why is prioritizing time important? We need to help our students understand that prioritizing time is important so that they have buy-in for learning strategies, right? That, you know, if we help you prioritize time, then you know you'll get what you need to get done, right? And recognizing that some activities are more important than others is key, right? There's some things we just have to do. And then those activities may have negative consequences if they're not completed on time. So kind of starting to compartmentalize tasks into, which ones if I don't do, right, something not so good is going to happen, or something, there'll be a negative consequence of some sort, right? And then by organizing those kind of have to do's, right, then we're going to see that students have more time for activities that they want to do because they won't keep putting things off. So when we're talking about prioritizing time, the classifying part is important because we need them to say, okay, I can make a to-do list, right? But we need to help them categorize them. And what we teach our strategy, it's called our OAN, our strategies, our obligations, aspirations, and negotiations, right? So we teach students that an obligation is an activity you have to do, an aspiration is an activity you want to do, anything, and a negotiation is an activity you hope to do, but that doesn't have a set time. So this is where the confusion can be for students, like an aspiration versus a negotiation. And we have awesome discussions about that, and we want them to, because what might be an aspiration for me may be a negotiation for you, but we help students tie it to time, right? And so I'll get into more detail here. An obligation, pretty simple, something you got to do to avoid negative consequences. And some of those examples are homework, maybe working on a project, maybe attending a family event like a family reunion. Everyone's going to want you there. They don't want you to skip out on that. Sitting down at the table for dinner, things like that. So obligations are have tos. And then an aspiration is that although there's no negative consequences, right? We want our kids to have time to do the things that they enjoy. They're want tos, but they have a set time. No negative consequence if it's not completed, but they have a set time. So examples of an aspiration might be like watching a television show, not a streamed one, but a live one, right? Maybe it's watching that big game, right? That big sporting event, or going to a movie at a theater that starts at 4, or taking that karate class that I really been hoping to take, and that's on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. So again, an aspiration is something you want to do that's associated with a set time, but there's no negative consequences if you don't do it, right? Nothing bad's going to happen. And then a negotiation are things that we like to do in our spare time. They're things that we want to do, but they can be done at any time as long as our obligations are done. So examples of that are, scrolling through social media or putting together some social media posts, maybe baking some brownies, playing video games, FaceTiming friends. So things that you can do anytime. It's not tied to a specific time. And it's often in our spare time. Like if we've got extra time, I'm done with my obligations. I've already gone to the movie with my friend. So I've got some extra time. What should I do? So then we start to give them some examples in a in a schedule, right? So explaining that there is wiggle room, time is flexible, right? So it's still possible to go to soccer practice, attend a movie with friends, and work on a science project. And sometimes kids get overwhelmed and they automatically say, I don't have time to do anything fun today because I have to work on a science project. But when we think about going back to knowledge of task, right? Going back to that sense of time, well, I'll really only work on that for a couple of hours and I've got a lot of hours in my day, right? So kind of thinking about, here are my obligations, aspirations, and negotiations, right? And here's how it can fit in, with my to-do list, right? So soccer practice, set time, obligation, right? Working on a science project, I can be a little bit more flexible here, right? Maybe I work in it for 2 hours from 1:30 to 3:30 or 12:30 to 1:30, and then I break it up because I want to go to a movie with my friends. So it's that flexible consideration with those aspirations and negotiations. So we work through these little timetables with students, talking about keeping it balanced. So I love this example because here's a student's example for their Saturday. They want to sleep in a little bit, looks like, watch TV, watch YouTube, go for a bike ride, play video games, pizza at a friend's house, movie with friends. So what you notice about this and what we talk to our students about this is, what do you notice? These are all what? And they'll say they're all aspirations and negotiations, right? Well, do you have any obligations over the weekend? Yes, I've got to do my chores. I got to study for a history test, homework, English paper. So this person is kind of keeping Saturday for fun and Sunday for all the obligations. And we can talk about how that could be a good way to balance it or not such a good way. Maybe we should be mixing things up depending on student preference.